Hey, welcome back to Have You Heard, the official podcast of Nichols College Athletics. Today's guest is new women's soccer head coach Caitlin Pickul. We sat down with Caitlin on Thursday, October 22nd, and we discussed the preseason, how the transition to Nichols has gone, and what we can look forward to seeing in the spring. Hope you enjoy. We're joined by new Nichols College women's soccer coach Caitlin Pickul. Caitlin, how's everything going today?
Yeah, going well so far. How about you?
Doing okay. Tell us about the state of women's soccer right now as we kind of enter the last couple of days of fall practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few days left. We have a couple trainings left, which has been really exciting. It's been going really well so far. It's the last week of our non-traditional, and really just kind of focusing and keeping our eyes set on whatever the spring will look like for us. The ladies have been working really hard, putting in a lot of work, hoping to grow and really continue off some of the momentum from last season.
Sure. What's kind of been the biggest difference or adjustment? And it's funny, I just said fall practice. That's not necessarily there. I mean, obviously you practice between games, but it's very different.
Oh, it's massively different. I mean, honestly, to have a weekend on a fall just not include games, it's that's I haven't experienced that in 10 years, you know. So it's a really weird feeling, and I think the same goes for everybody else. So I mean, overall, it's been pretty smooth. We've still had a training on a weekend, trying to keep with some of that normalcy and that normal routine. The group has been really good in terms of complying, with all of the requests that we've had. So we've been able to really progress through, the different restrictions, and be able to get into playing. With our smaller numbers, we didn't have to do really a small group type of situation, so we've been able to be together, which has been a lot of fun for them, and to keep everyone together. So just a lot of technical work, a lot of small group work, and a ton of defending. Which, if you ask any of them, they will tell you that is for sure my favorite topic.
Sure. Well, a former goaltender, you'd expect something like that. Obviously, there have been a ton of adjustments along the way since you started. Was there something maybe the day one of practice or even the second day where just right away you're like, wow, this is really different, or wow, we have to adjust, or maybe something you went in with an idea of and you had to adjust right away and said, nope, this just isn't going to work?
Yeah, I think for me, just wearing a mask, for me to be in a mask and carrying around an electric whistle was just it's so different. It's so not what I'm used to. I'm really used to being able to pull people aside and have closer conversations, small discussions around things, being able to coach them through the moments. And so just really kind of keeping mindful of where we are, where I am, who's doing what, what fun games we can kind of start a practice with, and what ones might not be great during COVID. It has been an adjustment, but I think we've found some pretty good ways to still be creative with it, and still have those fun moments and fun games to start some trainings as well. But yeah, it's really different. It's not fun wearing a mask, trying to yell and project your voice all the way across the field. I feel like I'm constantly adjusting it and playing with it, but so far it's been, honestly, all things considered, it's been really fun stuff.
And you mentioned a lot of games and some fun things to start practice with. Has that been something that's been maybe a bigger emphasis this year than in past years, just to try to, with everything going on at the college and classrooms and social distancing, just to keep spirits upbeat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, our number one purpose right now is really the wellness of the student athletes. So making sure that, we don't have games that we are working towards right now. So to make sure that we continue to find ways to keep it fun, but then also get into a training. I think it's important. I do like to do it every now and then, even in the run of a regular fall season, but it's probably been happening a little bit more so, a little bit of fun starts just to really kick off the training. But yeah, we've had some fun juggling contests and some fun games so far.
Nice. And you mentioned you had a little bit of a smaller squad than you've had in years past. How has that been, just working with maybe more one-on-one work?
Yeah, it's been a great core group. We have one keeper and 10 field players. So we've had a smaller group that we've really been able to dig in with, and to have our assistant be a goalkeeper coach. She's really been able to get a lot of one-on-one work with our goalkeeper, which has really allowed me to kind of focus on some smaller technical aspects with the group. So we've done a lot of 1v1 defending, a lot of really breaking down our footwork and some different reads of the play so that they can make better decisions in those moments. So a lot of 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, kind of building up, your individual moments and how you work with your team. And then just a lot of communication conversations that have happened on the field, either through the run of play or through some of the fun games. I think for this group to make sure we continue to work on how we communicate when things are difficult, and to have a small group right now has made those conversations be really effective. We've really been able to kind of dig in moments where frustrations rise in a drill to talk about why we went to where we went to, and how can we look at it and reframe what the situation is so that we can be more effective in our play, because there are no timeouts in soccer. So besides halftime, they only get to really hear my voice and chat through it in that moment. So to help continue to give them the tools of how to communicate with each other and learn to grow has been it's been awesome to have a small number.
You mentioned some of those teaching moments and defensive drills you worked on. Speaking with a previous coach at Nichols on a podcast last year, he mentioned that not only do the student athletes want to learn the drill, but they want to know why they're doing the drill. Is that something you've run into more? Not just like you tell the kid to do it and they do it, but they want to understand why they're doing it, what the purpose is of it, not to be disobedient, but just to understand how this is going to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really grown, in throughout my career, is something that I've noticed that, a lot of the student athletes, whether it have been, on the soccer field or even in my time in the weight room as a strength coach as well, they want to know what they're doing, what they're working, and how does this apply. And so I think when they start asking those questions, for me, I get super excited because it means the buy-in is there. And that they're starting to connect those dots and understand things, or that you can see a light bulb go off and they're like, oh, like, okay, now I'm starting to see that. So that's what you mean. And so we've even been filming some practices just to be able to show them pictures, because I think it's one thing for me to say it and for them to, experience small moments of it. But then when they see themselves back on film, and write a little reflection paper. Now I understand, coach. Okay, I get why you were saying to be closer. There's 5 yards between me and that forward. They can easily, get at me and go to goal. So I think, combining all those different areas has really helped them start to recognize some of those moments and understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Sure. Did you have any kind of low moments during training camp? And I mean, just in the sense of, obviously, first couple of days, kids are excited to be back on the pitch and learn the new system and techniques. And then you kind of run into, well, we don't have any games coming up right away. Did you have any moments like that, or maybe how'd you push through it?
I don't know that it's been not having any games. They've really had a fantastic attitude around like this being kind of an extended preseason, a time for them to get to know me and me to get to know them, and really prepare for the spring. I think, the typical, mid October when, they start to have midterms, and I think a lot of it has actually been the same. I think the constant battle that I've been facing is knowing that it's different. I feel like we as coaches are trying to find ways to fill those voids to make it more normal for them, but I also don't know that we need to all the time. And so it's a really interesting balance going back and forth of, how much do I do? Where do I give them their time still? I think it's been interesting with Zooms. We don't want to give them more team meetings because it's just on Zoom and that kind of stuff. So it's been an interesting balance, but they've been really bought into it, and they've been really excited. They walk off the field, still talking about being excited to play games in the spring and looking forward to that, and really trying to make a mark in the CCC. So for me, that's exciting.
Sure. And as you wind it down, do you have any plans? Have you left them with kind of an, I say off season? We're all in the off season at this point. Maybe over the break, like some workout plans or things to do to just kind of stay ready for when everyone comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something we've talked about in a lot of individual meetings that, I've loved being with them. This time has been a lot of fun. I think they've made great gains. When we're doing fitness, they hear my voice, and I say to them afterwards, I'm hoping you learn my voice and learn my expectations so that when you're on your own, when it's more difficult, you can refer back to this time. But the big thing I keep emphasizing is that I'm really interested to see where they come when they come back in February. I think they've walked the talk right now, but it's easy because I'm here and it's structured. And so what are they going to do in this time off to continue walking the talk of wanting to compete? If they want to continue to compete, they're going to have all the resources to do it. So, right now they're going to be lifting 3 times a week with Coach Bob, which is just fantastic. I put a huge emphasis on the weight room. They had a chin-up test, push-up test, clean test, dumbbell split squat test, and a vertical jump test yesterday. So those were awesome to really see some numbers. And it gives us good benchmarks to really mark growth. And then they'll get a lot of conditioning stuff from me too. So whatever they have access to, I've told them from the get-go, it's not a limitation. We'll work within wherever they are and whatever they have. But the onus is on them to really continue the work and to come back, and it will be up to them and the leadership of some of the returners to help the first years in this first kind of stretch of being alone and ramping up those workouts on your own. It's definitely difficult. It's hard when you're by yourself.
Sure. And I spoke to LA a few weeks ago, one of our other new coaches on the previous Have You Heard episode, and we talked about finding the silver linings and the positives that can come out of something like this. Normally, as a head coach, if you get hired, especially like you did over the summer, you may come into training camp, have 14 days, and then you're right into matches. Now you've had 4 months, and you'll have 6 months really before you get a pitch. Do you feel that's an advantage for you, and is that something you're kind of excited about?
Yeah, 1,000%. This has been honestly the best. To be a new head coach at a new school is overwhelming in and of itself. To be able to be granted this kind of extra long preseason has been awesome. We've spent so much time in individual meetings and just getting to know them. And I think for me to learn how they learn has been really important. What motivates them? Where do they need help? I think it will help us structure these, workouts going forward. But it also really helped me figure out recruiting wise, where we need to go and what we need to continue to bring in. So, the first week was hard just doing some technical work to then, go watch film of a recruit to try to compare it. So once we started playing, it was definitely more helpful. But yeah, I think it's been a blessing for us. Fingers crossed for the spring, but with our low numbers as it is right now and a smaller roster size, recruiting and the team's current growth as individuals has been the main focus.
Let's jump right into recruiting there. How different has this year been? And I know it's kind of the theme of this podcast so far, but I mean, for high school kids that are listening now and parents and just everyone, what can you tell us about how different it is and how you've adjusted?
Yeah, I feel my heart goes out to the 21s. I feel like for this class, it's just been a really rough go. A lot of them, at least from the soccer side of things, they played their junior high school season, and then a lot of them were going into their junior spring club season where they would have gotten a lot of film. They would have been at a lot of showcases. And to have that all cut short really made that film piece difficult. And then to have the showcases, not happening, to have colleges shutting down, it's really delayed the process. And I think for each individual, it's been different. There have been some that I've talked to who just really had to step away from it. And they just wanted to take a break from recruiting because just adjusting to COVID and school and everything in general was a lot. Others who just kind of pressed right on and they're filming technical videos in their backyard and doing whatever they can do. And I think the biggest word that I keep using is flexible. We have to be flexible. This is the situation we're in. So for me, it's been really interesting just trying to watch film and assess players, and now starting to get out as high school games have happened and be starting to watch some of the more local ones. But it definitely makes it more difficult for me to see those potential student athletes who are further away. I really want to kind of grow the regions that we pull for our roster from. We got a lot of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I would like to kind of get out of that area and find some new blood to bring into the program as well. And so it's made it a bit more difficult in that regard.
Sure. And what's it like trying to build a roster right now you mentioned you have 11 on the roster right now. I imagine that's something you really haven't had before. So how do you look to build that? And what's your kind of ideal roster size if you have one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think by the start of next fall, I would love to have a roster of 22 with 2 keepers. That would be kind of my ideal. I think anything bigger than that means that I'm bringing in a class that is exceptionally large, and I just don't know that that's always in the best interest of the program down the line as well. So I do think it's a balance. An ideal roster size, once things are really running smooth, is probably around 24 to 26 with 2 to 3 keepers. Is a good, healthy number where, you can really find success in training, but also, I think the thing in the Division III world where preseason is shorter and you jump right into those games, the bodies take a hit really quickly. When you're playing 2 games a week, trying to recover and get back out. You squeeze these games in such a short period of time for college soccer that the bodies take a beating. And I think that is a big piece that we need to grow in to be able to have some success in the CCC come those games in October. So yeah, we got a big project ahead of us. There's been a lot of video watching with both of our assistants, fully engaged watching videos, and me kind of starting to get out in person and see people play. But it's a full-time job in and of itself, but it is a fun part of the program as well to bring people in who really kind of represent what you're looking for.
Sure. Now let's actually look ahead to the spring a little bit. And what sorts of things have been on the table for return to play? We've mentioned maybe just conference games only. I know there's been ideas of just tournaments thrown out there. What can you share with us that's been talked about?
Yeah, I think everybody at the end of the day, the number one focus is to make sure we are trying to do what's in the best interest of the student athlete. So, giving them opportunities to play games being first, and then making sure, we're also not totally crushing their bodies in such a short period of time. So being smart about how we put those games in the schedule. Ideally, we are looking to try to play every team in conference at least once. And, that's one of the ideas that's been pitched around of, play everybody once, and then that's 9 games. Have 1 play 2, 3 play 4, 5 play 6, and so on down the line to have your conference, champion that's your 10th game. So everybody still, retains that eligibility as well, and there's no issues with any of that. Other ideas have been pitched is splitting the conference in half based on location and doing a home and away, and playing just your half of the conference, and then looking to play the second half in some sort of playoff type of series. But all still TBD, up in the air, but everybody just has the goal of being able to play games in the spring. So, it was great to see the NCAA pass the waiver to extend it until May 15th. That definitely gives us a little bit more time to get the games in, which is very helpful when we're looking at the wellness of the student athlete.
And with the NCAA as well, they've granted the 5th-year waiver for pretty much every student as long as they stay on that 50% threshold. So we talked about recruiting a little bit earlier. How does that change the dynamic of the spring season as well, just knowing that kids can come back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with a smaller roster for us, it's not as huge of an issue, and it's something that I think they should absolutely, if they want to, all be given the opportunity to. I think this year has been different, and I got to enjoy 4 awesome years. And when I played, and to be able to coach other student athletes in their 4 years, I think if somebody here wants to do that 5th year and be in grad school and be a part of this program, we would love to have them. So that's been something we've talked about. I've told them they can think about it, whatever they want. They don't have to make any decisions now, but they've all been given that green light from me that if they're interested in staying and being a Bison for another year, we would love to have them.
Sure. And a large part of this fall season and really this summer for the women's soccer program has been Haley Linekrey and her untimely passing this past May. She would have been a captain, just a phenomenal student athlete in the truest sense of the word. Talk about this fall managing the team's emotions. Just obviously this is new for you as a head coach, but just talk about kind of how she's still impacting the program even though she's not with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no real certain path you follow in a situation like this. There's no rule book for it, so it is something that we've kind of. There's days that are worse than others where it kind of still catches people. I think the thing that has been incredible to me in hearing all the stories, we were able to have a memorial on campus, which was fantastic. And her family came back, so I got to meet her family. Everything I've learned is that she kind of is the epitome of my handbook. She's the living form of my handbook. So, in speaking with her parents and all that stuff, she and I think we would have been really, really on the same page with what we wanted to achieve and where we wanted to get this program to. So, a captain in the truest sense of the word, to lead this program. And they painted her number on our game field, which has been awesome. Her parents were really excited to see that and, can take some pictures with it. And we touch that every time we go on and off the field. I think it's important to remember that we get to be here. This isn't an obligation. As soon as you feel like it's an obligation, you're not going to be putting the full effort in. This is something we get to do. It's a privilege, not a right. And so I kind of remind people that, when they start to get overwhelmed, take a breath. Let's look at this. We get to do this. This is an exciting part of our day. And so how can we make this, the best part of our day right now? What can we achieve in this training session? And yeah, there are some days that it just catches some of them in the wrong way, and it hits a little closer to home, and they're a bit emotional, and let them take the time that they need and process as they need to. But yeah, it's been a continuous work in progress. Hopefully, we'll continue to be able to do things in her honor and her memory over the year to come. Really still looking forward to do a senior game and to still have that piece for her and her family, and continue to keep her memory alive in this program.
Your graduate assistant coach, Megan Dunn, who really hasn't been on campus this semester, but she was a member of teams with Hallie. How has she helped just with the transition overall, both with the loss of Hallie and just your transition to Nichols?
Yeah, she's been great. She really kind of helped me preemptively get a feel for a lot of the players on the team, just having been a teammate. It's helpful to kind of know how people process emotions. It's something that I've definitely learned about the players as we've kind of gone through each day. But to have some of those insights beforehand definitely helped as to who needs a little bit more time and who needs to be chatted with and have those kinds of conversations. So she's been fantastic in that regard. And having her not be here has been, it's been a bummer, but she's been killing it on the recruiting end. She's watching a lot of videos on a pretty consistent basis. She's managing a lot of that recruiting for us, which has been really helpful for me, especially given, these six weeks really trying to put a lot of focus on the team, but also keep the recruiting piece going as much as we can. So she's really been setting up a lot of the initial people to reach out to and helping us find those potential prospects for the program.
Well, it sounds like she's got her feet in a number of different areas for your program, which is fantastic. Let's talk about your journey here, starting with your most recent stop at Holy Cross. You got there as an assistant coach, became associate, and then eventually the interim head coach. Talk about that ascension at Holy Cross and just kind of maybe important things you learned along the way.
Yeah, Holy Cross has just been, it's been an awesome career overall, and Holy Cross was a fantastic experience, one that I was really lucky to have. It started through a conversation over coffee, which was probably something I didn't expect, but I found myself in a really incredible opportunity to learn, and I think I can't thank Casey Brown enough for that opportunity. She challenged me every single day to get outside of my comfort zone. But to also continue to grow. So she really kind of did a fantastic job of handing stuff off to me and letting me find, my best systems that worked for things and continuing to add on to my plate, and look at things in a new way that I kind of hadn't looked at situations before. So it was an awesome opportunity to continue to grow. I think especially trying to lead the team through spring season being shut down and everybody going home it was a real tough one dealing with the true unknown. And we just kept talking about, the idea of a backup quarterback. They never know when their number's going to get called and when they're going to have to go in and, know every play and be ready to go. And we just kind of kept looking at, we don't know when the game's going to come, but we have to be prepared because we don't know if our season's going to start, right in the fall, if we get a preseason, if it's abbreviated, whatever. So a lot of the focus was continuing to just push those fitness limits and control the things that we can control. If people come in fit, it allows them to jump right into the soccer piece, right? So those were a lot of the conversations as we really started to wind down there. But the overall experience of Holy Cross was one that I was super excited for. It was we actually played against Holy Cross when I was at Providence, and I'll never forget that the sprinklers came on our half of the field only in warm-ups before the game, which was kind of peculiar. And they came on right in the goal mouth. So I remember getting just smashed in the face with the sprinklers were trying to warm up for the game. So it was funny to be back, good to be there and to really kind of help that program grow and take it to new levels, which was awesome for us to see that over 4 years.
Sure. So when did you first hear about the Nichols opportunity? And as you went through the interview process, when did it become evident to you that this is the spot that I want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my time at Holy Cross, I loved every minute of it. And, it was definitely sad to go. There were a lot of tears both ways between me and the players. And they're a fantastic group of young women. When I always kind of kept my ear to the ground for, a D3 opportunity in the area. I love being in Massachusetts. So I kind of had been listening and looking for that right D3 fit.
And we should mention before you continue that you spent some time at Wellesley at Division III, so you had that background as well.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is I love the D1 experience. It is all encompassing. You really do, the 20 hours with your team is you pretty much are in that 20-hour period for such a long period of time. So you're training them pretty consistently. And it's an awesome aspect of it. But then the flip is, that community feels a little bit different. They don't have some of those other opportunities to study abroad. We get asked that all the time as a D1 coach, can I study abroad? And it's just like, it's probably not in the cards. There's just summer programs or a winter thing that's just different from what they're experiencing. So I was really looking for a D3 school in the area that I could be a part of where, I could have more of that community feel. And when I got on the interview, I don't even know how to explain it besides the fact that it was probably the most overwhelming feeling of community that I had gotten in a long time. It was such an interesting place to have so many people from whether it be coaches, administrators, deans, anybody. It's just like they all spoke so highly of the family aspect. And the players really showed that as well. So for me, that community feel was just, it was so, it absolutely drew me in once I started to chat with people. So I was really excited to see that. And it's been an awesome part of the transition and the experience so far, having so many people really kind of be a part of my everyday. Whereas, in the Division I experience, you're pretty much just in your world, in your soccer bubble, and kind of doing your soccer thing.
Nichols is such an interesting place from the athletics side in the fact that over the last couple of years, we've really seen the total enrollment. We've had 50, even 60% of the entire student body is student athletes, which is very different than some of the other schools in the CCC. So just from a standpoint of the school really putting in the resources and the time into athletics, that had to be something that appealed to you.
Oh, absolutely. When you have numbers like that, it's awesome when you have a college that supports what these student athletes do. I think there's a lot of preconceived ideas sometimes about student athletes and, privileges that they get, but they're working their butts off. They really are committing a lot of time to represent their school and be a representation of the community. And so it's something I take really serious. And, I try to remind the players, because I think the flip to it being 60% sometimes is that there's so many people who are doing it, right? It's like this, everybody around you is an athlete, and it's a really cool environment to get support and people who are like-minded and doing the same things. And I try to remind them, like, this is a really unique opportunity. This is not something that everybody gets to do. For high school soccer, it's something like 7% each year of high school seniors go on to play college soccer, with only 3.7, something like that, going on to play D3. So it's such a unique opportunity. And I continue to really try to hammer that home with this group as we get to do this, and we get to represent, our school, on a bigger stage, which is something that you'll grow up and you'll leave here and you'll be working a job, and you're not going to have a bunch of coworkers that are all college athletes, So it's such a unique environment. It's so fun to be a part of.
I think something that came through with you during the interview process, and hopefully the listeners hear it now, is just you clearly have a passion for soccer. You have a passion for coaching, passion for the student athletes. Where do you think that comes from, and what continues that drive? What gets you motivated every day to just keep going? Is just trying to win that conference championship, or like you said, seeing the light bulb go on during practice, explaining a drill to someone?
Yeah, it's awesome. When you can see kids finally, when you see these student athletes, it's like this. They see a hurdle in front of them, and when you see them get over that hurdle, it's so rewarding, right? And I think I learned a lot of that at Wellesley, and just being able to be in the weight room as well. So being, an assistant soccer coach and an assistant director of strength and conditioning, and working with so many student athletes. And that was a really attractive part of the D3 world to me, was being able to have impact on so many more student athletes besides just my team. So, even yesterday during testing, somebody was going to grab really heavy dumbbells on a split squat, and they're like, no, I can't do it. And I was like, hey, go for it. Like, you got nothing to lose. And then they busted out, and they're able to get 3 on each leg. So for me, to show them what they're capable of, and to push them in a way that is meaningful, so that when they leave here, they feel capable to take on, challenging situations, is really important. If I'm doing my job right, then I'm helping them be comfortable in uncomfortable situations on a regular basis. That is what we're trying to do, right? So if I can put them in an uncomfortable but manageable situation on the field, they can continue to grow and learn how to make decisions and deal with whatever those consequences are. And that transitions to life after college. So I love it. I feel super lucky to be able to do what I do. You know, my brothers put on a suit and tie and go to work and do the finance thing day in and day out, and they get the Sunday scaries, and I get to come in and you know, play soccer and be a part of this community. So for me, it's just so much fun.
Now, that mentality, was that something that was kind of instilled in you while you were a student athlete at PC, or maybe did that come a little later when you got into coaching? Maybe there was a mentor that kind of put that in you.
Yeah, you know, I definitely think it started to come. I loved being a part of the team. I love that team environment in college. I think a lot of that came once I really started to get into the coaching world, and I credit a lot of that with Wellesley. And you know, seeing, you know, convincing people that an all-women's college isn't this like weird place to be at, and to come and experience what you can do and what you can achieve when you put your mind to something. Wellesley was an awesome place for that. And so for me, I really learned to hone in on what motivates student athletes in different ways. And then, you know, the next thing you know, when you see a fencer busting out, you know, a 200-pound back squat, or, you know, a squash player busting out 20 chin-ups, it's like, heck yes, like this is what we've been doing this for, right? And they start to feel those moments and see their peers do it. And yeah, it gets me fired. I could keep going on and on. It gets me fired up. I really enjoy it.
So you were a Division I student athlete. You went to coach at Division III, back to Division I, back to Division III. Talk about the adjustment maybe you've had to make as a coach, and respectfully to all of the student athletes, there is a skill level difference between Division I and Division III, but there's also many other factors. And you mentioned before, not being able to study abroad mostly if you're Division I. That's something I hadn't necessarily thought of. So maybe from a coaching standpoint, how did you adjust? Or what was your kind of first, you know, oh, okay, here's what I thought, I have to lower my expectations?
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest difference really where I'm trying to readjust is the time that I get to spend with them. So that's the biggest piece that's different. I'm used to having, I guess you could say, a lot of control over what they would do. You know, we would, for Division I, we'd come in for preseason August 1st, and we'd be, you know, a couple weeks of training camp before we get into our season, and then season would end, give them a couple weeks off, and then they'd be lifting 2 to 3 times a week, and they come back after winter break, you know, and they're testing on their first day back for us on the field, running, lifting, all that stuff, and we're full go. So I think the biggest difference for me that I'm adjusting to is that the time that I get to work with them and how much control I have to let go of and give to them. So it changes my focus to be a little bit more so on the empowering them to learn how to do things on their own and why they're doing things so that they can continue to achieve and push when I'm not next to them, encouraging them, versus, you know, really just kind of here's the packet, and, you know, if you don't do it, I'm going to see it on day one, because, you know, we get right back on the field for Division I, and they're testing right away. So there's time that I don't get to work with the student athletes here. I think that's the piece that scares me the most, but is the most exciting challenge of, you know, finding those ways to keep them motivated, keep them connected, and wanting to improve, and drawing that connection to games even when we're not together. So I think that's really kind of the biggest difference for me. You know, at the end of the day, in women's soccer, I think there are a lot of players who go D1 who would be All-Americans at D3, and they choose that world of a D1 to say they've done it. And then there are, you know, D3 players who, you know, could easily have gone D1, but they chose the D3 world, and they wanted to be a part of a different type of experience, which is fantastic, because they can still study abroad, they can play a second sport, they can, you know, be a part of whatever group or org on campus they want to make a bigger commitment to as well. And I think that well-rounded student athlete experience is a really fun one, and something that I am excited to be a part of here at Nichols. You know, we have a couple players in track and field and that kind of stuff. So, you know, that excites me because I know they're already back into workouts as soon as we're done. So, yeah.
So early on in my sports information career, I worked with a team that went to the national championship at the Division III level, and I made the naive statement one day to our coach of, how many of our kids do you think could play Division II or Division I? And he kind of looked at me blankly and said, all of them. But they all chose for one reason or another to play at the Division III level. And you mentioned kind of letting go of control. Going with that now, how important has this long let's call it a preseason, Ben, to develop the trust factor to that the student athletes will do what you're asking them to do. And because you can't necessarily, I say this, control them as much maybe as Division One, you can't oversee them and spend as much time,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to build that relationship where you can trust that they're going to do the things they need to do to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it comes in the form of accountability and making sure that, I'm able to continue to connect the dots for them, that by doing this now and continuing to do this over time, even when we're not together, this is how it translates to when we get to play games. And so holding them accountable to a lot of little things, sometimes things that seem smaller to them, whether it be a daily check-in or a grade reporting form, I really try to touch all aspects of it for them so that they know that I expect them to get certain things done at a certain time. And if we can do that with little things, it translates to a bigger picture. They know that I'm not going to be messing around when we get on the line to do the yo-yo test. And we're gonna do it tomorrow. It's up again for tomorrow, and they're probably not super looking forward to it. But a lot of them have already said that they're excited just to see where they're at now and the progress they've made. So if we keep tying and connecting those dots to, doing this now equates to you saying what you want to do, which is to be competitive in the CCC. There's no reason this team shouldn't be competitive in the CCC. You see what they did, in their non-conference play last season. There's absolutely no reason it's not possible. But we just need to continue to build our bodies and to continue to grow in numbers so that we're able to compete as the season goes on. And match up with some of those other teams. So, when we're running fitness, we're saying, what are those other teams doing right now? Like, we're going to dig in and continue to grow. And hopefully I can continue to connect those dots for them even when we're apart, so they can keep thinking about, what that season will look like this spring.
You've spoken a lot about strength and conditioning during this podcast. You have a strong background there. How much does it help you as a head coach to have that background where Bob Donahue does a phenomenal job with all of our teams at Nichols, but to be able to have your team in there knowing that they're not just going to get strength training, they're going to get strength training for soccer that's going to benefit them.
Yeah, working with Bob has been great. We actually crossed paths at Holy Cross prior to this when he was interning there, and it was my first year there. So we did cross paths before, and so he and I are really, it helps from a programming perspective because, if there's something I want to have checked out, he's like, oh, yeah, of course, like we'll get that done. And he's saying, here's what we're thinking from a programming perspective, and we're able to have kind of higher level conversations about what we want to achieve in the weight room. I think the biggest piece for me is making sure that everything we're doing is purposeful. So I'm not like a running for, a negative reason kind of thing. I'm very purposeful in what we're doing. So if we're doing fitness, it's for a reason and for a purpose with a prescribed amount. To make sure that we're achieving things that we want to achieve in a way that we're continuing to take steps forward and we're not overtraining, and taking any steps backwards. I think that's really important. So if that means that, as practice is going on and I see that they're really starting to get gassed, then maybe we cut practice earlier that day. Even if it's not what I want to do as a coach, because I want to see them keep playing, you have to keep their bodies and keep that science in the back of your mind all the time as to what is the best thing that we can do for the student athletes in this moment. So, one of the things they do for us is they do a daily check-in form. So they fill it out every day before training. And it's, how did you sleep? How much water have you had? What's your nutrition been like? How's your body feel? Where are you sore? There's literally a little map of the body with pinpoint numbers. And so that gives me information prior to training. And that plays into, what we do at the start of training. So if it means they need, a little bit of extra hip work, whatever that looks like, we build that into the warm-up each day based on how they're feeling. So that warm-up is a good 15, 20 minutes each day at the start of our training sessions to make sure we're taking care of them.
That's really great stuff, honestly. You're one of several new coaches we have at Nichols this year. How has that helped you coming in terms of, have you had a lot of time to spend with the new coaches to kind of say, hey, how's this working for you? Or are there just veteran coaches that you've leaned on a little more at Nichols?
Yeah, I definitely, with the new coaches, LA reached out really right away. We kind of were not too far apart in terms of being hired. And so she really kind of jumped right in and was like, hey, I was just where you were. Like, ask me any questions you have. So she's been absolutely fantastic. She's helped me with SAC as well because she had done that in her previous institution, worked with SAC. So that's been helpful for me as the new advisor for SAC to have her helping there. And then, Chris Trina's office is just down the hallway from me. So it's really nice having a men's soccer coach. It's been a great working relationship. We chat pretty much daily about different things, drills we're doing, how things are going, the field, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty constant conversation. So it's been a medley. A lot of people have been really great to work with so far. It's been fun, and looking forward to get to know some of the other coaches the more we get to kind of be around each other.
Sure. And you mentioned the STAC, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. Talk a little bit about your involvement with that. What's going on right now?
Yeah, I think a big focus for STAC with the CCC this year is really trying to focus on the student-led aspect of it. So, we got everybody together. We have 2 reps from each team, really trying to kind of hone in on people who are looking to be a part of it and get something out of it. So we got 2 reps. Our e-board was elected last week, and we have our 6 e-board members with a new position as our CCC liaison. So it's separate. We did it separate from our president as someone who goes to the CCC meetings and then reports back. They're really starting to talk about topics that they want to see happen. And for me, I'm trying to be hands off more than anything else. I'm trying to let them, kind of learn and be there more as an advisor and guide them of different ways, how to best communicate, how to achieve things, and the process to kind of go through. I think like you said, make up a huge percentage of the student body. And so it's a big voice that we have. And so with a lot of things going on right now, it's great if we can get a collective voice from the student athletes to discuss things that are going on for them and things they want to try to change and work to grow, whether that be something like mental health, which is always a big topic, or working with the Athletic Social Justice Council to tackle some of those topics and how we can best continue to grow as an athletic department.
Sure. As we wind things down with Caitlin Pickul, again, our new women's soccer coach at Nichols, talk about your involvement with our alumni. You've spent a lot of time trying to reach out to them, especially through social media and some campaigns like that. Is that something maybe you've had experience with at PC? Is it an alum there, or with Holy Cross and their alums? Is there anywhere that's kind of giving you some idea of how important the alumni are and reaching out to them?
Yeah, I mean, like the alums really at the end of the day are so important. And I think the piece that is always hard when new coaches come in is it does take time to build that relationship back up. I think we're really fortunate here where, Demir, our head equipment manager, who was a coach at some point, is still here. He's still connected to the program. We're able to draw a lot of the connections back. And so for me, I'm really trying to just be supportive and tell them that, like, I'm here for them, whatever I can do, but also how can we make you proud? How can we continue to grow this program and get it to a place, start to get some of our younger names kind of in the record books and surpassing some of those older alums who are in there. I just think it's really important to feel like it is a home. It's something that you commit a lot of time to, no matter what year. Even myself back at Providence, it's been a while since I was there, but it was a big part of my life and a really big time commitment, something that I was proud of. And I know a lot of alums feel the same way about their programs. So been able to start making those connections. Meg Dunn has been fantastic in helping us with that, having been a recent alum, and continue to draw those connections. And reaching out to a few others. There's a couple in the coaching world now. So, looking to connect with them and grow, especially next spring. If we can try to bring some people back, if all things go as planned, it would be awesome to get to meet some of them in person and really get a good alum game kicking out on Vendetti out there.
Caitlin Pickul, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us on Have You Heard. Enjoy the rest of the fall season.
Thanks so much.